From what it is that I'm familiar with, autism is sort of a mental condition that sort of affects social interactions. That you something isn't firing correctly in the brain that uh, doesn't allow you to see certain things. I mean, when I just had graduated from college, I went to a place referred to as Autism Journeys, and they one person I met there, a lady by the name of Morgan, told me that if you ever meet one person with autism, you meet one person with autism because it affects everyone a little bit differently. For me, I'm a little bit more predisposed or predisposition to learn about technology, but other people are like more about know more about farming or one very specific thing. That's something that I've noticed is that people on the spectrum like to focus on one very specific thing, and it affects them all in a very different way. So one person may be high on the spectrum that's considered high functioning, like myself, or somebody else may be on the lower end of the spectrum where it may affect them a little bit more. And it's a lot of their symptoms can be a little bit more intense, more anxiety, stuff like that. Growing up, autism or being on the autism spectrum wasn't necessarily a mainstream thing as it was today. It was sort of a niche thing that I didn't necessarily know about till after graduating college. So I was normally just going through school and everything, feeling like I felt different, but not really being able to identify why I felt different. Just a lot of very unique situations that I ran across that sort of got me to this point. But then I came down here to college, and I started going to Utah Valley State College. And then around, I want to say 2010, it became UVU. And then when I graduated from college, I felt like I needed to figure out why I felt so different. So I found this place called Autism Journeys, and then they essentially said, you're on the autism spectrum. And they actually referred me first to Utah University, where I had the official diagnosis done. And then I think I messed that up a little bit, but I went there, and then I came back to Autism Journeys, and then they sort of gave me some changes and everything, and that sort of started me off to where it is I am today. I will say that I've had a very, very unique life growing up. I don't have a girlfriend yet, ladies. Sorry, I didn't mean to be handsome there, but yeah. In all seriousness, I haven't had a lot of social interactions or anything, and I haven't had a girlfriend or anything, and so I tend to look back on a lot of my previous experiences and try to learn from them, and realize I'm probably going to be alive for another 80 or so years. And because of my whole college experience and everything, and just learning that going from college into just this day-to-day life, my mind is sort of just blanked out, and I have to learn these things one day at a time, and just learning how much are groceries, how much are these Cheerios, and just is it appropriate to say the word triggered, or all these very minutia things that I've still been learning about. And I think if there's one parting piece of wisdom that I have to learn, I have to give anybody else that is on the spectrum, keep learning. Learn about what it is you are, what it is you do on the spectrum, and just what it is you are, and just go out into the world when you are able to. Learn about the world around you, because there's only so much that playing video games can teach you. For me, I sort of grew up in the time back in the early 90s, back when parents would say, don't play video games too long or it'll rot your brain. If anything, I think it did the opposite for me, because it started showing me the world around me. I mean, I played Mario, I played Sonic, I played Final Fantasy, Dance Dance Revolution. That is a game I really love too. And learn what you can from video games and everything, but just don't spend all of your days playing those video games, because there is only so much they can teach you. And just learn as much as you can about the real world. Learn what you can from your parents, from friends and family members, because that's how I got to where it is I am today. Signs and symptoms, you can probably see it by a lot of people on the spectrum don't like to make eye contact for long periods of time. So they'll probably tend to look around the room a bit, or they'll probably do something with their hands. They'll be very fidgety or bounce their leg or something. It's going to be different for a lot of them, but they'll probably do something that makes them feel comfortable. They'll probably have like a toy or some sort of gadget or something to hold on to that will help them. But I know I've heard of things like Ritalin and other stuff, but I'm not necessarily an expert in the subject. But it's one of these individual sort of situations. It could be because everyone is a little bit different. It's sort of this unique diagnosis that if you meet one person on the autism spectrum, you meet one person on the autism spectrum. So a diagnosis that would be good for me wouldn't necessarily be good for somebody else. So it's sort of an individualized thing. One thing that I've tended to notice with people on the spectrum is that they tend to be very, very smart. They find like this niche subject to learn, where it be dinosaurs or trains or something. They really like to focus on that. But then also alongside that, there are some social anxieties that tend to happen, that they don't know how to interact with other people. So I think with a lot of places like this Autism Journeys place that I talked about, it's one of these safe places that they can go to where not only learn social skills, but learn how to interact with other people in a safe, protected way. To my knowledge, I'm not sure if Autism Journeys is still around, because I've tried to reach out to them a little bit. But just finding a place that can not only help you figure out whether or not you are on the spectrum, but again, finding that individualized plan, finding out what it is that you actually need. And again, it's going to be that individualized plan that's specific to that person. Well, I think I covered just a few of those points, where it is just eye aversion, not wanting to look at people for long periods of time, that focus on that one individualized thing. And I think a big one I didn't touch on yet is a sensory overload. Because like I look around here in this room and I see like these lights and all this stage setup and everything. For me, I've learned to actually be used to these lights being as big as they are, or as bright as they are. But somebody else on the spectrum might, say with like this chair or something, be like really, really uncomfortable because it feels like knives or pins in their back, and like these lights may be super, super bright or something, or there may be like some super, super smell that's in the room or something that's really, really pungent, or stuff like that I have to avoid. So just that sensory overload, they have to sort of be careful about the sights, the smells and everything. And so it's one of these things that they can just lock down and they just don't want to do anything because it just coming in and coming in. These lights are too bright and they can't do anything at all. It depends. I think it's more of a spectrum thing because for me, when I actually got my personal diagnosis, I just barely found myself on the spectrum, so that's considered high functioning. I think for somebody that's like more middle or on the lower end of things, again, it goes back to that whole specialized treatment thing that maybe you're high functioning but still have sensory overload, or maybe you're on the lower end and again, it's maybe you don't. So every person's a little bit different. And so I think, it just goes back to figuring out, do these lights bug you, or is this seat that you're sitting in feeling uncomfortable, or can you not smell grapes or oranges? And just figuring out what it is that you feel uncomfortable from, and then learning either to learn from it or get around it to make yourself more comfortable. Yeah. Medication, I generally haven't taken a lot of medication outside of just Advil and Tylenol because I do tend to get headaches occasionally. When I was starting in Autism Journeys and everything, one of the first experiments that Morgan had told me about, she took me to the nearby mall and we just went to a food court in one of the alleys there. And what she had me do was just sit there and watch people walking back and forth. Watch people holding hands and notice how this one couple is just holding their hands like this, just casually, and pay attention to everyone. And she said something to the effect of, watch how everyone's interacting here, and pay attention. This person looks upset. This person over here is maybe tired shopping with a girlfriend, or watch their posture. Are they slouching down, or do they look like they're happy to be there? Are they in a rush? That's one thing. I think for most people on the spectrum, they don't necessarily know how to interpret body language. Because if I look at you here with your legs crossed, you look a little comfortable and you don't necessarily look annoyed or anything. Somebody else on the spectrum might not necessarily know how to interpret that. They may just say, okay, you're just sitting there, you're filming me doing this interview. They just look at you and just say, okay, this is a person just doing this thing. So probably to best answer that question is learn how to interpret body language. And I guess I would probably say go to a mall, just sit down in one of those couches that are there and just watch people walk by. Watch for their hands, their feet, their posture, their faces, and then just keep in mind how it is they're acting, and then learn from that and just learn about, do they look annoyed? Do they look upset? Do they look happy? That's probably the best practice you can get, actually learning how to be out in the real world. Social cues, again, it goes back to this very unique situation of just everyone that's on the spectrum is on the spectrum in different levels. So it's sort of hard to say, I can see this person over here and yes, he's this much on the spectrum. Or if you're ever asked, you don't look like you're on the spectrum, and I could say, that's only because I've had so much practice. I've had a lot of life experience. I will say one other thing too is people on the spectrum will tend to maybe jump to very, very different topics on occasion. They'll maybe start with the trains and maybe the conductor, maybe the food they ate, and never stay on one topic for that long of time. So again, I guess it's one of those things that I'm still learning about too, to just keep one consistent topic going in a conversation and just staying on that topic without saying, I had fries today, which reminded me my computer broke down, and then my car broke down, and then my apartment's messy, and then again, just forgetting the fact that I was originally talking about fries in a restaurant. So yeah, again, it is just one of those things that you have to learn about. And then just figuring out for you what those cues are, and then improving your life as time goes on. Back again in 2008, I did the Disney College program, where it's just this internship where I can actually go to Disney and actually say that I can put Disney on my resume. And one thing I could do was actually go to the parks when we're not working. So I believe, from what it is I remember, I went to one of the water parks at the time, and I went into one of the giant wave pools. And I was just swimming around here, just getting the lay of the land and everything. And as I was sort of positioning myself around, there were these 3 girls in front of me, like taking a picture of themselves. And so I was just thinking in the moment, I would just lean over like this and just get my face in the picture. And then when they took the picture, I ducked down in the water. And I didn't really think much else of it. So that happened, come back home, and I forgot about the whole situation. About a year or so later, I started working at my second call center that I worked at, and while we were going through training and everything, one of the guys that I was training with said, "Hey, you're on the internet," and I'm looking at him saying, "Okay." I hadn't started my YouTube channel. I had like maybe 10 subscribers at the time, so I'm wondering, how is this happening? So I go into work. He shows me this website referred to as eBaum's World. And apparently it has this top 10 list of people referred to as that guy. And it's top 10 people who photobomb pictures. And I'm apparently number 7th on it. And the picture that comes up is this picture of me in the Disney College program being in this wave pool behind these girls and everything. And okay, how did this happen? So it's sort of this running joke in my group of Facebook friends and everything, that now that I think about it, I do feel a little bit embarrassed that I did that. But one of my brothers actually had this idea of, come next April for next Autism Awareness Month, to try to reach out to those girls that took that picture and see if I could make like a formal apology to them for actually ruining the image. But it's just one of those unique things that just in that one moment, I feel like, okay, let's be a little bit silly. I'll just reach over here and be in that image. I mean, I could probably spend a good 10, 20 minutes just going off a lot of things that happened in my lifetime. But again, it goes back to that thing that if you meet one person on the spectrum, you meet one person on the spectrum, because everyone on the spectrum is just a little bit different. Back when I was about 5, 6, 7, again, this was when I was not on the spectrum, I went with some friends of mine at the time to a nearby, not necessarily water park, but it was just a indoor recreation center, and we just spent some time swimming. And we spent maybe about an hour and a half there. And when we got all finished, we were waiting for their mom to come and pick us up. And my friend at the time said, "Hey, I'm hungry, go get me some candy." I said I didn't have any money. And I should say here too that growing up, there were a lot of those social cues that I didn't know about, that normally these machines here referred to as vending machines took money and everything. What he had said was, okay, just go over to this vending machine over there, kneel down by it, and then reach your hand in there and you can just grab candy out. So being this ignorant kid at the time, I did just that. But the thing with those vending machines is that when you push it open, it has these little metal flaps that sort of retract in and out. So what I did, went over to it, reached under it, and then, okay, I couldn't get anything. So I proceeded to pull my hand out. But what happened was that when I pulled my arm out, I sort of dropped my arm down, and that actually had caught the metal part of the vending machine on my fingers. So I started to panic. I can't get my fingers out or anything. So long story short, they had to call some fire people to actually smash the window to push my fingers out and everything. Yeah, my parents really weren't happy with me about that. So that's sort of a hard call here because for me, I, again, haven't done a lot of research, but I will get this one thing out of the way too. There was that Arrhenius study done a long time ago that apparently vaccines had caused autism, and I can tell you definitively that that was made up. Outside of that, I think it's more just the setting that you're born into. And the last thing that I want to do here is like start any sort of controversies or anything, but just social settings. I guess it just depends on where it is you're actually born, because I don't think I'd be qualified much to actually comment about that. But yeah, I don't really think I know the best way to answer that because I'm not an expert on the subject. For me, I have a bad sense of smell and taste, and that's something I sort of had to learn and sort of get around. And I haven't had the best luck in social settings, and it's unless I know the people that I'm working with or the people that I'm familiar with, like friends or family, then it's this thing that I just shut down and I just don't know what to do, and maybe I'll just have my phone out the entire time. And I have no problem saying that I've had trouble going on dates and meeting other people because I just want to be in this safe place. I don't know how to interact with other people, so just having my phone out keeps me safe. Going back to the whole thing about it being just this very individualized thing, everyone on the spectrum may either have these just very individualized things. They don't like hearing redundant phrases over and over again, or they may repeat phrases over again. And something a little bit interesting too is that I actually work in a call center and I do tech support, very light tech support. And I actually have to work with a lot of older people that don't work with technology all that often. And so with that, I have to sometimes repeat myself 2 or 3 times to them because they don't know how to use technology that well. And it sort of gets a little bit annoying sometimes, but I've gotten used to it because I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes I'll usually get happy or maybe grumpy people occasionally, and I can usually get around that. But there's just these people occasionally that will just want to yell at me and not accept any answer that I give them, and then not only that, blame the world's problems on me because of that. And maybe just me coming from my own specific background, but just people not wanting to listen to me is probably one of those big annoyances too. So helping people out, I think it's just a matter of paying close attention to the person that you suspect may be on the spectrum, and then figuring out, do they not like pancakes? Do they not like this certain TV show? Or are their bath towels not soft enough or hard enough? It's sort of a hard question to answer, but just, I think paying very close attention to the person and then again, making that very individualized plan for that person so they can better cope with any situation. Well, I can say common misunderstandings. I've heard of this movie referred to as Rain Man, where apparently this person was on a low-functioning person that knew a lot of history or a lot of facts and everything, but just very socially awkward. I don't remember actually watching the movie, but I have heard of it. that is not necessarily representative of everyone on the spectrum. Yes, they may have those niche subjects that they like to learn about, but just that's one thing. And also, again, sort of going back to my sort of gaming background, I have heard of other people using the word autistic as sort of an insult, and so I'd probably say that's really not a fair thing to say online, but that's not something I'm going to get into. Autism in general has sort of, it shows me a lot of the things in the world that people don't normally look at. I mean, say that I was just a normal person looking at you. I look at you and I pay attention to the stripes in your shirt, or I pay attention to the patterns in your shoes. And I see this blue-green screen over here where it says superior backgrounds, and I just can't take my eyes off it. I see the details here in these backgrounds, or in this blue screen back here. I think for me personally, I see a lot of those patterns, and I think if I was to say this to anybody else not on the spectrum, give somebody on the spectrum a chance, because you never know when you'll have somebody that's the next creator of Pokemon, or the next creator of the swivel stick, or this next big invention, because I see a lot of things other people don't see, and I'm trying to actually develop that into a usable skill that can be used out in the workforce or something, and just let's just see where it goes from here. And again, my YouTube channel of Dreyfus Sano, I want to actually have this be this big thing that this is going to be a pipe dream right now, but I wish I could get that silver, gold, and diamond play buttons and show everyone, look back at the 50, 60, 70 years that I've done this. Look at all these good things that I've done. If you're on the spectrum, you can do this too. And again, everyone's going to be different and everything, but just I feel like I don't want to spend the rest of my life just being in a call center doing very light tech support. I feel like I can bring something very positive to the world, and I can show the world, look at all the good things I can do. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can cover in about an hour's span of time. Two specific individuals that I know of, and there's maybe one other one. I know of two people. Actually, the creator of the video game Pokemon was apparently very sort of on the lower end of spectrum. I'm trying to remember the exact phrase, but just he was severely on the spectrum. I don't remember, but just essentially he was on the spectrum because he was so fascinated with bugs. He liked looking at bugs, and long story short, there you go. I do know of this other person by the name of Temple Grandin. I've only heard of her through Autism Journeys. I haven't read in a lot about her, but apparently she is an advocate herself. Now, this is just more of a guess on my part, so again, do not quote me on this. There is another YouTuber I've seen online by the name of Peanut Butter Gamer that sort of has the same tendencies of people on the spectrum. That he does a lot of gaming videos and stuff, and a lot of his videos are way over the place. They're very zany and crazy. And a lot of those things that he does are very similar to somebody who would be on the spectrum. And he's just somebody that I follow time and again, and sort of been an inspiration to me in that sense. Anybody else on the spectrum that I know about? I couldn't definitively say yes. There's probably a few others that I'm thinking of, but those are probably the three that most come to mind right now. Because of my unique background and what it is I've sort of delved into, I think with where it is that I am, I'm starting up my own personal YouTube channel right now, and I sort of want to actually be somebody that I can be a positive influence to anybody else on the spectrum, be it high functioning, low functioning, anywhere in the middle, and show that I might not have had the most perfect life growing up. I had a loving family and everything, but just, I think I went through life in a very, very unique way. And I think a lot of those experiences that I had, I can show a lot of people those experiences and maybe help make their life a little bit better. Be that, look at me, look at my experiences, and look at the good things that I can do. Look at where it is that I've built 2 computers. I've been in a job for at least 3 years now, and a lot of other things. Look at what it is I can do. Come and see the good things I can continue to do. And I think for me, I just want to be this positive role model to anybody else on the spectrum, and just also bring a little bit of laughter and fun back into the world because of everything going on in the world. So maybe helping others figure out where it is they stand and everything, and just bringing as much positivity and fun to the world as I possibly can. On YouTube, just Dreyfus Xano, DreyfusXano. I sort of started this back in about 2008. And I made my first music video referred to as Techno Rocker Xenoic Mode. And it was just this weird music video that I had made that I had noticed a lot of other music videos at the time were just out of sync, apparently. And I just had to make a music video that was just on the beat. And all of the characters that I put into it just danced on the beat and just danced with the rhythm of the song. Over a course of time, I started learning a little bit and started adding into my whole repertoire and everything. So essentially what it is that I do is a form of music video referred to as machinima. Excuse me. And with machinima, I'm able to take the characters from the game that I play, World of Warcraft, and then take them into Adobe Premiere, and then edit them around, and even have them say zany, crazy things that I want them to say. So I've done a few music videos, I've done a couple of improv animated shorts occasionally, and then I did something on my channel referred to as Vlog Every Day in April for Autism Awareness Month, where for 30 days I actually recorded myself just in a vlog setting and just said, this is where I've grown up, these are the experiences that I've had, this is how I got into gaming and animating and everything. And something interesting that I did too is that I took a very hidden phrase. I'm not going to say what the phrase is for spoilers, but just I took one letter of that phrase and then put it into each of the 30 episodes, so that if you went through them, you could find this specific phrase, and then sort of like one of those decoder ring things. And also one other thing that I started about 3 years ago in World of Warcraft is something for Autism Awareness Month. I gathered a lot of people together and dressed them up in red, blue, and yellow robes and dresses and everything, and had them all arrange in one of the awareness ribbons, in the shape of an awareness ribbon, and then just have them lay down, and I just took a screenshot of it. So that was sort of my thing of wanting to start the process of autism awareness from what it is I can do. But with the next autism awareness thing coming up, I want to be able to find like some charities or some other places to donate money to, and then maybe do a live stream of raising money and then just donating it. I guess I've been trying to get it back in contact with Autism Journeys, but just I've sort of lost contact with them. So either that or maybe some other places. That's something that I want to keep doing too. Well, I didn't necessarily bring this up here, but I did serve an LDS mission and everything in the South Dakota Rapid City mission. And I won't spend too long on this, but just again, I served this mission back in 2002 to 2004, and that was just when I started college. I went to college 2001, 2002 to 2004, served mission, and then it took me about 10 years to get through my college career. But serving the mission and everything was very unique in and of itself, and that's a story for another time. But just, again, for me, coming from somebody that just doesn't want to interact with other people, I had to, in my mind, I had to go up to these doorsteps, knock on these doors, and then say these very specific lines and everything. And I had to do that nearly 10 hours a day. And that was probably a precursor to me getting to where it was I am today. And I'm very grateful to have those experiences and everything. And just, I would say, if you have that chance, go on that mission, because that will be a precursor to you too. Just, that was a very, very interesting experience for me as well. Learning about how cold it is in North Dakota, and spending that. I think another thing too is just on a mission, you actually spend 24 hours a day with this other person that's going to be next to you the entire time. And that sort of got some taking used to, because I think for me, if I ever get really, really super anxious, or if I have that mental breakdown or something, I have to be in a quiet place. I have to be alone by myself so I can get my thoughts back together and everything. And just on that mission, that's harder to do, because you are required to be with that person 24 hours a day. For me, a mission was a very good precursor for me. And it actually showed me a lot of the world outside. People on the spectrum tend to have this one individualized niche that they just hyper focus on, and they just spend most of their times just perseverating on that and just focusing on that. So for me, that was technology. I was a big gamer growing up, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, etc., PC, and eventually I found the game World of Warcraft, and I spent a lot of time playing that. And it took some learning, but eventually I was able to turn another passion of mine, improvisation, and combine the two together and actually turn it into something that I do on a regular occasion. So I would say, as encouragement goes, find out what it is you're interested in, and then try to find as much information as you can about it. Go to the library, go on Google, find other things, and just be the best that you can in that. I remember one of those really old Pixar movies, Robots, where the main character is told while he's beginning his adventure to find a need and fill it. So it's been a little bit interesting for me too, because for me, I look in the world in a very, very unique way. Like, say, if you went into a garden and it was filled with just these beautiful roses and tulips and everything, any neurotypical person would say, look at this beautiful garden, how good it looks. For me, looking at it, I look at that garden and I just see roses, I see tulips, I see weeds, etc. For me, I had to learn what the concept of beauty was. The fact that it was just this natural plant that grows from the ground, and it's associated with love and Valentine's Day and everything. So I think figuring out what it is you're good at and learning about the world around you in a quick manner can really be beneficial. If you feel like you're on the spectrum, first of all, get a diagnosis and see where it is you land on that spectrum. Because when I went to the U of U to get my diagnosis, I got like a stack of papers that was like a 10-page thing that says, this is my background, these are my hobbies, etc., etc. And then through it would say, these are my avoidances. These are things that annoy me, or these were observations from the therapist that actually diagnosed me. Figure out where it is you land on the spectrum, and then go to one of those counseling places that can actually help you, and then make one of those detailed lists about what do I need, where do I go from here, and ask them to help you figure out those individualized goals so that you can proceed from there and then make the most of the time that you do have. I guess I feel like because autism and Asperger's was not a really prevalent thing back in the 80s when I was born and everything, I guess I sort of feel like I wish time travel was invented so I could go back to myself when I was 5 or 6 years old, tell myself that I was on the spectrum, and then get that diagnosis so early on in my life so that maybe I could have made more friends growing up, or maybe I could have had a girlfriend growing up and maybe have my heart broken, or maybe having a few more interactions so that maybe I could have been a little bit more prepared for high school, college, and just day-to-day living.